ANC has celebrated its 110th anniversary. At the heart of the January 8th statement by President Cyril Ramaphosa was the message of unity within the party. CEO for the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Sello Hatang, has written a piece about what he thinks the late statesman would make of the movement today, and he joins me now for a conversation on just that. Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Mr. Hatang, for your time. You've written a very interesting article on what you say Madiba would say to the ANC today. You've particularly noted the party's program of renewal and unity, and you assert that impunity should never be the basis of unity and renewal, where leaders are allowed to get away with theft in the name of unity. Just talk to me about this position.
Thank you very much, Sister Mfundo. And I think it's important that I start off by saying that I do give a disclaimer to say that I never want to speak for Madiba. None of us can say what he would think or say, but these are suppositions of what I think could have happened because of my observations of him, at least in the period 2008 and to 2010. And I think it's important that as we think about this period of what it seems to be turmoil within the governing party, one should also be thinking, what does that unity look like? Because there are forces who, I argue, are hell-bent on impunity, that none should be touched, even when they've wronged the state, even when they've wronged us as South Africans. And I'm arguing that it's important that for all of us to always think, for the president, the way he addressed us yesterday as a country, to say, as he thinks about this renewal and unity, we should then be saying those who have wronged South Africans should not get away with. But that those who are also arguing that let bygones be bygones should never be allowed to do so. Because it's when we do so that a culture of impunity is then rooted in our system. Those who, for example, cause harm, continue to cause harm when it comes to institutions such as the Constitutional Court, things that happened just last week and the week before, they must be found. We should never forget what happened in July, because it's when we become that forgetful nation that we then get impunity rooted in our system.
No, it was very important and to hear the president actually state that they would not unify at all costs. People must be held accountable for their actions. But what do you make of the constant elevation of conversations around divisions within the party, with very little desire to interrogate what in fact divides them?
Look, I think it's because most of them know what divides them. You find yourself with a situation, at least from an outsider's perspective, where those who have been accused consistently of capturing the state, as Ndate Joel Nchitenza said, they won't just walk away. They will have to fight to the bitter end. And those who are trying to cleanse not only the party but government have to always be met up with resistance. And I think that's why it's difficult for them to even just declare these are points of where we don't agree, because in most of it, it's based on values, just differing values, where there's denial of the truth, where you want to fudge and continue to fudge and think that by fudging you then have can get away with it. And I think it's important that we also remind ourselves that a moment is coming in the form of the upcoming elections, that the local government elections was one part of the lesson, that South Africans are beginning to say, look, we can't have it go one way all the time, that lessons should be learned. But that as we learn lessons, I also cautioned previously, that we should also be aware of xenophobes. We should be aware and cautious of those who are coming in with fascist kind of arguments. And as you replace, be careful what you're replacing what with. And it's that we always have to then be asking ourselves as South Africans, what kind of leaders do we want? And also not to begin to change the mentality of wanting to have the Messiah, the one who's going to come and save us. We must lead wherever we are. We must try and voice ourselves wherever we are and say, this is not how we want to be led. And it's only when we do so that we'll begin to see not only the ANC change itself and fully transform into something that we want to see, but actually that government and governance will begin to take root.
Yeah, and then there's this constant argument, though, that it's not just one group within the African National Congress that is corrupt. Is it enough a reason not to prosecute people for their wrong deeds, that if their deeds have come out into the public domain, just to merely say that we're not the only ones? If you're talking state capture started just in 1994 and continues to this day. Is it enough not to prosecute?
One of the challenges that we faced with today are people who keep on saying, we know others, but they never name them. And they never actually come out to say, these are the others who have come out. Just a couple of weeks ago, as we were burying the Archbishop Desmond Tutu, I noted that one of the key points that he differed with Madiba was on corruption. You'd remember he called Madiba out back in 1996-97 to say you are not decisive, acting decisive enough around corruption. And I think it's important that we note those things, that it's not that corruption started yesterday. The system has been corrupted for so long because you had interests of those who were coming into government with nothing. And we're trying to just act in the best interest of South Africans. And then you had other interests coming from corporates and the capital system that we have, which then seduced them into ensuring that they get what they want out of the system. And I think until such time that we learn that, we are in trouble as a nation. The second thing that I think is important with regards to your question is also important that we then say, it can't be that we are paralyzed into acting against those we know and we have evidence against because they know of some crime that was committed.
Yes. Yeah. And then what lessons, though, should the ANC...
We have to always,
no apologies there for interjecting. But what lessons should the ANC draw from this period of scrutiny with the release of the state capture report?
I think to do differently. The key thing is to do differently. And if one follows what the president said yesterday, I must tell you it was one of the impressive speeches he's given, because it said we will follow through. We won't have a report that then sits there and is not acted upon. And the two speeches that were given also by the other leaders of the Tripartite Alliance are not to be forgotten, because both of them said you can't have impunity even in a case where you know that the possibility of there being infiltration in our security systems, we then fold our arms and do nothing about it. We must uproot those people who have been helping those forces to do what they are doing. But the second one was about how they both emphasized that the report should not be shelved. It should be a report, unlike the Truth Commission report, which was just put on the shelf, unlike this Cyril Commission report, which was shelved, and many other commissions reports where there was hardly any action. This one, there needs to be action in order to then also affirm to South Africans that your money was not spent recklessly.
No, certainly a lot of money spent there. But thank you very much. That was Sello Hatang, CEO of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, just weighing in on what the late former President Nelson Mandela probably would have said or made of the current situation within the ANC. Well,